Hey, I'm Dustin.
And I'm Steve. Welcome back, listeners, to the finest phototainment in the world. That's right, you're listening to another episode of the Wedding Photo Hangover podcast, an irreverent look at wedding photography. This podcast, like aspirin, will help you recover from your wedding hangover. Dustin, first up, a little bit of an opener here, kind of more of like a house cleaning sort of thing. Listeners,
Little business.
if you don't listen on SoundCloud, you can just ride that 15-second skip button right on out of here. If you listen on SoundCloud, I got some bad news for you. We're switching off of SoundCloud. In fact, we already switched off of SoundCloud. We're going to keep posting there until, September when our subscription runs out?
Yep.
But we have moved to a different platform. We are now on Anchor, which brings with it some cool stuff. If anybody ever wants to, they can get on the Anchor app on their own and they can record up to 5 minutes of audio and send it to us and we can use it in the podcast. So that might be something cool that we try to do in a later date, but not right now. It's too soon. We're still figuring this all out.
So for those of you that aren't quite that tech savvy and you just listen to this on your iPhone using iTunes or the podcast app that your phone comes with, nothing has changed for you. Absolutely everything is the same.
In fact, the last episode, you probably got it from Anchor, so you're all good.
Yeah.
You made the switch. You came with us to the other side. We jumped the shark and you jumped with us. We're shark jumpers now.
So we appreciate the journey that you didn't know you were taking with us.
Now, when you phrase it like that, I feel kind of terrible about doing this and not telling anybody ahead of time.
You make it seem like we're somehow stealing something from them.
We podcast raped them. That's what you're saying right now. We didn't ask for their consent.
I'm not saying that. You're saying that.
Well, I am the one who made the change without even asking you. So, yeah.
So, if anything, I was podcast raped.
Dustin, you want to talk about what you're doing tomorrow? Is this going to be as boring as talking about switching from SoundCloud to Anchor, or is this one going to be fun?
I'm shooting something for the first time tomorrow that I've never done, and I don't want to spend too much time about it because I want to follow up after I've already done this. I am shooting a
dolphin cruise.
military return home thing.
I was really hoping to be the dolphin cruise.
So, have you ever done one of these?
Oh, no.
So, one of our brides and grooms, he got deployed before the wedding, and he comes home this week. And so the wedding's this fall. So it'll be the first time they've seen each other in 3 months.
Oh, that's going to be fun, dude. There's going to be some great emotions.
And, wait for it, she had a baby while he was gone. His baby. But yeah, he missed his firstborn son's birthday. And so it'll not only be the first time he gets to see her for 3 months, but also meet his son for the first time. So yeah, it's going to be an emotional, packed, charged day, and my first time on a military base. So,
oh man, that's going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I have no idea what to expect or how to go or what to pack or what to bring, but yeah.
But you're pretty amped about this whole thing?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because it was supposed to be Monday. And then it became Tuesday, and then it became Wednesday, and then it became tonight at 2 a.m., and now it's tomorrow at 9 a.m. So I'm just waiting. It's officially set to 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Oh, it's a good thing we're recording this at 11:30 at night. Yay!
Yeah.
This is going to be a 2-hour-long episode. Dig in, Dustin.
Originally, it was going to be at 2 a.m., so I'm like, Steve and I will just record late, and then I'll just go right from recording the podcast to the airport. And
yeah. It sounds like a fun time.
Yeah, and then I got the call today that, it got bumped again. 'Tis the way the military works, I'm told.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I'll give you guys some follow-up next week on how that went, and maybe shoot you some pics. But I'm excited. I'm jazzed. I'm anxiously nervous.
That is awesome. I'm kind of jealous. I would love to do something like this. It sounds like, man, it's going to be a pretty emotional event. And, man, he's going to see his wife, or soon-to-be wife, and his kid for the first time. Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would just love to leech off of those emotions, all those happy vibes, and then bring that back into my life with me. Maybe you could make a video so then I can just feel good.
No, it's I'm not even actually. I might not ever share any of the thoughts or emotions. I'm just gonna bottle them up and just keep them inside me.
Killing me, Smalls. All right, Dustin, next up, we got to push into follow-up trademark John Syracuse. Dustin, do you have an update for us on the copyright photo thing? The listeners have been demanding in the Facebook group that you give them updates there first. So, I mean, this is up to you. We're recording on a Friday, Thursday? What night is it tonight? Thursday night? And the episode will come out Sunday.
So let me give some updates here. So here's where we are. Last I left you, I had just kind of found out about the infringement, talked to the print company that I photographed for, that, essentially this company in question stole the image from, which then in turn stole from me. So I tried to negotiate with him on Tuesday, I believe it was, a fair settlement price type arrangement, and he wasn't having anything to do with it.
Wow. So he stole your photo, and when you tried to negotiate a price with him, he was just like, piss off?
Well, I wouldn't say he said piss off. He kind of was like, I said, I'll just tell you how much I asked for. I asked for $1,200. I felt like that was enough to really make me feel happy, but, not too much where I thought I was really going to rock the boat and make this into something that I didn't want it to be. And when I said $1,200 and he flipped out, I was like, well, he's definitely not going to want to do $1,200. So then I said, well, how about this? You write me a check today. I'll come by the office and get it. $800. We put this whole thing behind us. And he was like, no, the most I'd be willing to pay you is $300. Call me back if that interests you. And then he hung up.
Wow. And you weren't just like, oh, well, that's great, but you didn't actually hire me and negotiate the price of $300 ahead of time. My price would have been $1,200, so screw you. Right.
So I get a call later that day. So I've had the whole day to kind of mull it over, and I was planning on coming back at $500. I was going to try and at least man, I really don't want to deal with this legally.
You are terrible at negotiating.
Hold on. Let me finish, Steven. So I'm like, I'm going to come back at $500, just get the money, be done with this. And he comes, I get a call from the print company that I did the photo for.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, hey, I'd like to really see this resolved because we got some jobs lined up still with this guy. And, we don't want him unhappy. Could we meet at $600? You think I could negotiate $600 on your behalf? And I was like, well, that's $100 more than I was just willing to do. So yeah, $600 is fine. And so I thought it was a done deal, $600. And then he comes back and he's like, well, he just changed his mind. He said $300 is as much as he'd do.
Yeah, because he realized he had you by the balls when you came down from $1,200 to $800. And then when you came down from $800 to $600, you were terrible at negotiating, Dustin.
So anyways, then he's like, well, I don't know what else I can do. Let me give you his cell phone. So then I started texting back and forth with him for a while. Oh, gosh,
no. You should have just pushed this off on your lawyer.
Well, so then I was like, hey, no, my initial text was just, hey, Larry. It's not his real name, but we'll call him Larry. Hey, Larry, I just want to let you know I'm sorry that we couldn't come to terms. I really wish we could have avoided this, but from here on out, you'll be speaking to my attorney. Gave him her name and email address, and you can forward anything that you have concern-wise to her. And then he freaked out. He was like, "Whoa, no! We can figure this out peacefully. There's no need to get lawyers involved." And then he still wouldn't go over 300 though. So I was like, whatever. I just stopped talking to him at that point, and I forwarded all of my texting communication, which he buried himself because he admitted that he was like, you sure you want to take a risk with the courts, man? I give you $300 cash, which pretty much in my mind states he knows he did something wrong. He's trying to pay me off. So
he was trying to bribe you?
So yeah,
Dustin, gave him. Have you joined some sort of seedy underground Fort Wayne organization? Deep in the downtown streets of Fort Wayne,
And then he kind of let
A lone
slip
photographer walks.
because he asked me, "Oh, which magazine did you see the ad in?"
Oh, snap. So it's in more magazines than just that one?
So I'm like, "Well, which magazine is it in?" And then he started naming magazines.
Jeez.
And I'm like hearing the dollar signs as he's naming each one. And so, yeah, I just I sent everything at that point to my attorney, and she's on vacation this week, but she said when she gets back on Monday, she'll take care of all of it. And
Here's what we can do. How many magazines did he list off? Was it 4?
He
At
listed
least
off
4.
3. He listed off 3 that he knows of.
Just be like, okay, cool. Yeah, it's $300 for each magazine that it's in. So now you're up to $900 again, right?
Yeah. So, well, the lawyer said I'm not even going to mess around with anything less than $1,000. So she's going after him for $1,200.
Nice.
So
We'll see what she says after she reads your text. Maybe she'll dump you as a client. Oh, you said you'd settle for $600? Yeah, you're gone. Sorry, Dustin.
Well, that's what I told her. I was like, if you could just get $600 out of him, I'd be happy. And she's like, no, screw that. I'm getting $1,200 out of him.
That's got to be worth her
plus
time.
Legal fees.
Yeah. Wow. All right, Dustin, next up on our follow-up from our very own Facebook group. Dustin, you got some sick burns from Evan Dawson and Zane Naylor this week. Dustin, do you want to talk about those sick burns?
Well, I just want to quickly plug our Facebook group. For those of you out there who have not yet taken the chance to join our super secret Facebook group that's impossible to find unless you search wedding Hangover on Facebook. Steve and I tend to be the brunt of a lot of jokes in the group.
Steve and I, or just you?
But today, especially, it seemed like it was just me.
First up, let's talk about this a little bit, Dustin. Zane Naylor was at some sort of thing.
I got a lot of enjoyment out of Zane's post today.
And Zane found
really made my day.
Cooler. That's right. Zane found a coolest cooler. He got a full demonstration of the coolest cooler.
That.
He took video while the lady was doing the demonstration. And at the end, his parting words, I'm sure Dustin will love it. And I lost it when he said that.
So did
the
I.
whole thing was fantastic. Like, she's just going through, showing him all the things. And oh, man, all I could think is Dustin would love having this thing in his life right now.
The only thing that I thought would have made it more entertaining is if he had started by saying that he was thinking about getting one for his friend Dustin. And then if she had said, well, I think Dustin would really like this feature, or I think Dustin would really like that feature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would have been great. Next up, Evan Dawson had a sick burn on you. This technically wasn't in the Facebook group, but I posted it there. He texted me to say that
it was a secret, intimate thing between just the two of you, and then you brought it into public light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Evan said, I've decided to change how I listen to the WPH pod. I'm going to start having Dustin mail me a flash drive with the episode on it each week, just like how you deliver your galleries to all your clients. So that's a new service Dustin's starting up. He is going to start mailing out the podcast every single week on flash drives for anybody who wants it that way.
Yes. And so what Steve doesn't realize is Evan is actually one of our top Patreon contributors. And that's a service only for those people. You're asking yourself, why have I not heard of this Patreon? Because it's that top secret VIP level. It's just for the upper echelon elite Evan Dawsons and Louis Novaks of the world. So yeah, if you want to join that level, it's what did we say, Steve? $3,000 a week pledge, and you get a thumb drive mailed to you every week. With the this
is going to look bad when we actually start a Patreon and then people like are listening to the back catalog and they come across this and they're like, ooh, I got to check out that Patreon with that $3,000 a week thing. See how much money Evan and Louie are blowing on this. And then they go there and they're all disappointed. Or even right now when they try to go there and it just doesn't exist.
That's why, Steve, you need to make this exist for the Evans and the Louis of the world.
We'll see what happens, Dustin. What do we got next? I think it's time for some beer talk. Dustin, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, considering I have to get up at 6 a.m. to go photograph this military reunion thing, I am drinking the finest hydrogen dioxide. Wait, no, dihydrogen oxide. Sorry, I'm a little rusty on my chemistry. Known as water.
Oh, nice. Tonight, listeners, I'm coming to you with something very special. It's a great Indiana beer for a great Indiana man like me, Steve Van Elk. That's right, it's from Scarlet Lane. Once again, I'm drinking a Dorian Stout. An espresso, like a coffee flavor to this beer. It's delicious. It's lighting up my life tonight, maybe giving me a little bit of that caffeine. I was listening back to our last episode. I yawned at one point. I was so bored by what you were talking about, and I wanted to make sure that didn't happen this time, so I'm mixing stimulants with my depressants tonight. Coffee and beer.
A true chemist.
Yeah. We got to get things done. Dustin,
Get it
are
done.
you ready to move
Is Scarlet
on to our
Lane
topics?
sponsoring us yet? We officially...
I jokingly told you that they're sponsoring me.
Oh, so you are sponsored by Scarlet Lane.
I mean, I got free beer from them. Yes, I did.
I'm glad that this wealth has been shared.
Well, that would have happened regardless of the podcast.
Yes, I know. All right, moving on to topics. We have some hot button issues tonight.
Dustin, do you want to take this first one? These topics, they're not the first two topics, at least. They're not very funny. They're kind of a break from our traditional stuff. It's not gear based or anything.
Right. So why don't you take this first one?
Okay. So the first thing we're going to talk about, same-sex couple in the Charlottesville area was turned down by photographers wishing to stay true to their beliefs. Dustin, did you click through and read this?
I did not read the whole thing. I didn't realize it was photographers. The thing I had seen on Facebook was that it was videographers. Mm-hmm. But apparently I misread.
I mean, if you had read the whole thing, you would have seen, I think they do both photography and videography.
Oh, okay.
Or something
so
like
it
that.
Was.
Yeah.
Because I saw it in a videography Facebook group, so I assumed it was videography.
Yeah, it was. I was reading about it the other week, and it seemed the company. We're not going to get into naming the companies, even though I think what they did was deplorable and wrong. I do not think that we should publicly shame them. I mean, if you want to publicly shame them, go for it. That's cool. Just, not in the name of the Wedding Photo Hangover podcast.
Yeah.
No, it was just, this is a real debate going on right now because of the whole thing in Washington where they ruled in favor of the guy who said he didn't want to bake a cake that went against his beliefs or whatever. And so now they're saying... So now other people are feeling like they can be terrible human beings to same-sex couples, and man, this is just depressing.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not really sure how this is so much a topic as it is just sort of a news that this is something that's still going on and something that's still happening is beyond me. I mean, essentially, you have to be a complete idiot, even if you have beliefs that are so strong against people with different ideals than you, and you go on to say, yeah, I'm going to do your wedding, and then change your mind. I mean, you are just crazy. You're opening yourself up to the worst publicity and lawsuits, and I just can't even imagine people that do that. I know they're thinking in their minds I'm doing the right thing here for them, but man, I bet if they could hit the reset button on that, they'd be like, it's one Saturday, I think I can deal.
Yeah, no. Dustin, what would you do in a situation where you felt like something was compromising your beliefs? Would you go with it, or would you not?
That would require me having beliefs, but
there's only one thing that Dustin McKibben believes in, and that is the Wedding Photo Hangover podcast. That is correct.
the Church of the Wedding Photo Hangover podcast, which is why we release on Sundays.
And sometimes Mondays.
And sometimes the occasional Monday afternoon. But no, I don't know. I've never had an instance where a bride has ever, been, something where I'm like, that doesn't fit with my moral compass. Maybe if it was something where I thought she was going to rob all of her guests at the wedding.
So, a quick update on Gardenia. I was just doing a search because I was thinking that people might have bombed their reviews. And on Google, it doesn't show that they have any reviews when I did a search for them. And on Wedding Wire, when I tried to click through, it says they have a rating of 4.5. But when I click through, it says, cake balls, looks like something went wrong. So they've apparently deleted their Wedding Wire account. And I don't know what's going on with their Google, but it seems like there's no reviews or anything popping up for that. But the website's still there.
So in related news to discrimination, you had a venue, not you personally, but a venue locally to you, did the same thing. They turned someone down, but they kind of came out and said it was all a big misunderstanding, and I never really heard any more follow-up on that.
So what happened was there's a venue here in Indianapolis. It's like a coffee shop / venue, and a drag queen was asking if they could use the space for a music video. And at first it seemed like things were going well, kind of like with the whole Gardenia thing. Oh, I just said the name of it, didn't I? Anyway.
You said it twice
already. Cool. Where it seemed like things were going well, and then all of a sudden something changed, and they said no. Funny how these things keep ending up, they change and say no after this other ruling came out where, they ruled in the cake maker's favor or whatever from Colorado. Anyway, so the Needhammer was the place in Indy, and they said they didn't want to do the music video because they have minors who work for them. And it kind of became like a viral thing here in Indy, not a nationwide thing. But tons of people were commenting on it saying, how could you turn this person down? They're just trying to do a music video, they're going to dance. There's nothing wrong with what they're doing. There's no reason minors couldn't be there for that. So it kind of blew up. And then the guy from Needhammer posted something about how they've done same-sex weddings before in the past. They don't discriminate. I guess whoever was communicating with the drag queen in question, I believe their name is Mossy Stone, they apparently thought that the music video would involve something that would be too risque for minors, for the minors who work there or something like that. And so the people who own the Needhammer asked Mossy Stone to meet with them, and they would talk about it to try to find their differences. And the other reason I say don't go and leave tons of bad reviews is the guy in this case specifically said, please don't leave this venue bad reviews. I'm trying to work things out with them. I'm going to shoot somewhere else, but they're willing to sit down with me, have a cup of coffee, and discuss their differences. And I think that's great. I think being able and willing to meet with somebody who disagrees with you, oh man, that's such a cool place for that person to be. But on our side, it's typically the photographers who are the ones who are doing the terrible thing. And the photographers would be the people who would have to say something like, oh yeah, we'd love to meet with you to talk about it. We're not on the other side, Mossy is, where he can actually say,
Well, and I can also say from what I saw online, it definitely got misconstrued because I was only getting a piece of the puzzle, because the stuff I was seeing online, it seemed as if it was a same-sex wedding, not a music video.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see where...
I think because it was a wedding venue, people kind of were just don't have your same-sex weddings there.
Correct. So I assumed that the outrage was about a wedding. And I could kind of see, hey, I don't really want, a music video shot here that's going to be risque, because, we also have a coffee shop kind of running here during the day.
I don't understand. Is there something wrong with coffee and porn now?
Only during the day. Only you like your stimulus and your depressants all at the same time.
Only depressing after you climax.
All right,
Oh
Steven.
man, yeah. This next topic comes from Maria Del Toro via Ulysses Del Toro of the Wedding Photo Podcast. She found this in a Facebook group. A Facebook group, that's my jam. Thank you so much. I don't want to do all that work going through these. If anybody else wants to send me terrible things they find in Facebook groups, that'd be awesome. So a girl in a Facebook group wrote this. This girl was looking for a second shooter for a wedding. You're kidding, right? In my opinion, a second shooter shouldn't have to hand over raw images to the main hired photographer. You should want to hire a second shooter with a similar style as you so you could both send photos, especially if they're using their own equipment. It's not fair if someone goes and takes photos and the main photographer gets credit for all of it. I would never hire a second shooter and ask for their raw images because they took those photos.
So that was her post. And then tell me a little bit about these. Who was messaging back and forth with her?
That person, she cut out of her posts. She shared like the messages back and forth. And,
yeah, gotcha.
All it said was, and this was not Maria Del Toro who shared this. This was a third party. We'll call her Mac. Yeah. So Mac posted this in a Facebook group, and the post was afterwards deleted and taken down. I assume because most photographers, especially wedding photographers, strongly disagreed with what this girl said. But Dustin, I would love to hear your opinion. What do you think? Should a second shooter be required to turn over their raw photos to the main shooter at a wedding? How do you do it when you have a second shooter who's not
this is how I mean, so I thought long and hard about this topic because it kind of fascinated me. And really, honestly, it comes down to an agreement between two people. I don't really feel like there necessarily needs to be a standard or a code. It kind of feels like there is, based on my experience with other people and other professionals. But, you know, if like that's how she wants to handle her business, you know, that's her prerogative. But as far as like what we do when I'm hiring a second shooter, I'm expecting all of the raw images. I'm expecting them, essentially, I'm paying for their time on the wedding day as a creative person. They're shooting, they're giving me the images, they're done. Anything above and beyond that would just be, you know, I couldn't afford. I wouldn't want to pay someone to edit the pictures, call the pictures, and deliver their own pictures. That'd be like having two wedding photographers from two separate companies on the wedding day.
That would be crazy, right? Two wedding photographers from two separate companies. It's almost like you're sitting on a story about that exact same thing, but you can't talk about it. And I was going to save this, but you told me we were months away from being able to talk about it. It's crazy.
Crazy. So what do you do when...
that was all fictional. Dustin's not actually sitting on a story. I would never bring that up in a different podcast. I'm so professional. I'd never do that.
So what do you do when you hire a second photographer?
I demand they give me all the raws, and if they don't, I take their camera and I chuck it on the ground, and I say, if I can't have these photos, no one can. I just throw a fit.
That's why they call you Steven the Fit Thrower Van Elk.
The fit thrower, yeah.
I thought it was fitting.
There you go. You got it. Nailed it. Every single time Jed and I have worked with a second shooter, we have always required them to hand over their raw images at the end of the day. Every time Jen or I have worked as a second shooter for somebody else, we have given over the raw images at the end of the day. I do not understand this. Now, we do allow our second shooters to use the photos in like their own portfolio, but we do require them, if they are going to post something to social media, like one of the photos, to say, hey, I took this photo while working for or while working with or something like that. You know, if they post to social media, they need to credit us because we were responsible for whatever. But I don't think anybody's ever posted social media before. Second shot for us at a wedding.
Yeah, I had it happen one time about 3 or 4 years ago.
And you just picked up the phone and yelled at that person, and then
it was a really awkward situation. Shot the wedding on a Saturday. I kind of have this tradition where I do nothing work-wise on Sunday.
They got a photo out before you?
They posted sneak peeks the next day.
What? A second shooter posted sneak peeks?
Yes. And in her defense, she had never second shot before, so she didn't know what she was doing was wrong. And, she didn't realize that the bride followed her on Facebook. So then the bride was like tagging herself and using her photos, which had her logo on them.
What?
It was kind of a mess. And yeah, it was definitely disappointing. And I had to, make sure I clarified that with all other second shooters moving forward, that wasn't something, I wanted them to do. But yeah, it was a learning lesson for all parties.
Wow. So has this person ever second shot for you again?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there was a bit of a cooling off period where I needed to kind of not be angry at her. Mm-hmm. But it was, yeah. I mean, she's a great photographer, great friend of mine. And I have her second shoot whenever I can now.
Now that she knows Dustin's rules.
Yeah. I mean, if she's listening, Jen Van Elk, I still really do like you.
Oh.
Just kidding.
I don't think Jen's ever second shot for you.
One time.
She's second shot?
Third shot, I guess you call it.
She did?
Yep.
Jen and I shot a wedding for you one time.
Yep,
because
that's
you
true
had some
too.
sort of weird problem, but
no, she came to a wedding I was doing in Indy where the bride really wanted cocktail hour covered, but there was no way for both of us to travel all over the place, and so she covered like an hour, I think, of cocktail hour.
So now in my mind, in going with the joke you made about this person being my wife, I'm thinking, oh, Jen posted like a bunch of photos of like drinks and food.
Yeah, exactly.
And the bride was like, oh my gosh, you have to check out these photos Jen took.
These are the best drinking cocktail hour photos ever.
I'm not in any of them because I was doing portraits with the...
But yeah, so note to self, if you are a photographer and you're just starting off and you're hiring your second photographer, or you are a second photographer for the first time, chances are it will be frowned upon if you post anything to social media, especially before the lead photographer does.
Yeah, so like that's our other thing. Like I mentioned earlier, we do allow second shooters to post stuff, but they have to wait until after we have like our blog post up, which should just be like a week later, but sometimes it's like a month later.
I tell them 6 months.
6 months?
Yeah, because 6 months after, no one gives a crap anymore about those photos.
That is very true. But I mean, I do think that second shooters should be able to use like the photos that they took for you as like a portfolio piece or something to show people, hey, I can do weddings. I do know what I'm doing. Like, especially if they've never shot a wedding before and they're second shooting for you and it's like their first wedding ever, like they're doing it to get experience. So
correct.
It would be really, really crappy if
I never say they
can't
can't post it on their website. There's no time constraint on a website, but just blogging and social media, 6 months.
What if the day after the wedding it was up on their website already?
Yeah. Well, I have to assume my bride isn't already checking out other photographers' websites the day after her wedding.
You're also now assuming that your second shooter just slide a business card over to her.
Well, my second shooter did get hired to do my bride's family photos.
Ooh, how'd that work out?
Well, let's just say I've always been a little bitter about it.
We've had some people who've like second shot for us or other stuff like that end up shooting like past clients of ours later on. We've never been bitter about it. Because it's always like, oh, they were doing maternity shots or something, and like Jen and I don't really do that. Like maybe we'll get into it someday, but like we're not really big on that right now. So
right, yeah. Well, and the photographer even called me. I mean, she was really, because she knew it all kind of stemmed back from the Facebook post, and she was like, if I hadn't posted that, they would never have potentially never contacted me for family photos. But I don't know if they think that maybe that they're hiring me.
And you're like, no, it's cool. Here's the thing. every time somebody contacts you from this wedding, you just owe me 10% of whatever you charge them. We call it a finder's fee.
And that's what she said. She's like, I feel like I owe you something because, I probably wouldn't have gotten this. Do you want me to turn it down? Our friendship is worth more than a stupid family session. And I was like, no, whatever. It's no big deal. Go ahead, do it.
No, it sounds like she did the right thing in the end.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing is like, it's not like she was being malicious. It was more just like ignorant about, the etiquette of it. And I was too, because I didn't think to educate her about it. So, but that was, 4 or 5 years ago. And now I know.
Nice.
Because before then, no one ever posted anything on social media. Back before 5 years ago, it was, MySpace.
Nice. Now, Dustin, we do want to move on. You got to wake up pretty early in the morning. So you entered in, you wanted to do some gear talk.
Gear talk.
And you put something in about the new smartphone camera sensor from Sony. So I just went ahead and added the Nikon full-frame mirrorless camera system that was announced and the rumored Canon first full-frame mirrorless that is
everything's going mirrorless, man.
On sale this year. So what you got? What you want to talk about?
Well, let's just
drop the links. We have some links in our show notes. We'll drop the links for viewers to look over, listeners to look over. Man, are we doing a video podcast now? Or is this a YouTube channel? Apparently, I don't know the difference, Dustin.
So Sony dropped a camera tech piece of bomb on us this last week. That I don't know about you guys, but I get super excited about advancements in cell phone camera technology. I know that sounds really nerdy.
It's really normal for a photographer to be excited about
is
that.
Is it?
Yeah, no.
It's just, I don't know. I get really, really jazzed about the idea of my phone being able to take equivalent pictures of my DSLR. But anyway,
so are you excited then about everyone's phones taking equivalent pictures to your DSLR?
Just mine, because I'm the only one willing to pay for it. But anyways, Sony dropped a 48 megapixel sensor into a 8 millimeter diagonal sensor design, which that doesn't necessarily mean that your end result picture is going to be 48 megapixels, because some of those megapixels might be used for low light capabilities or other crazy features, depending on how they use the quad Beret array combined with the adjacent pixel algorithm. But I think either way you cut it, it's going to be an incredible leap forward, being able to do some 4K video at up to 90 frames per second. I'm excited. My only fear is that, typically I would assume Apple probably isn't going to adopt a Sony camera sensor into their phone. I don't know that for certain, but I would say it's a safer bet to assume that you'll see this in an Android device before you would see it in an Apple device. But hopefully that means that it will push the envelope for what Apple comes out with here in the next 6 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Steve, you saw in the example photo on the post of someone taking a long distance photo of a cruise ship.
Oh, we're still talking about this? I just kind of tuned you out because I was so bored by all this gear talk about phones.
Ring, 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 ring. Steve, hey, it's your phone here with a better camera.
Well, it does say that Sony's going to be using something called effective resolution, which suggests the size of actual pictures will probably be 12 megapixels and not 48 megapixels. So what do you think about that, Dustin?
Well, that's what I said. I don't know that necessarily the actual megapixels of your end result image will be 48 megapixels, but that means they have 48 megapixels worth of information and processing power on the sensor that they can do a lot of stuff. Just like when you think about Sony's A7S II and hopefully soon their A7S III, that it doesn't do 48 megapixels because so much of the processing power on the sensor is used for low light performance.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it only produces 12 megapixels.
In the article you shared from Gizmodo,
Gizmodo.
doesn't it say that it mentions that Nokia did a 41 megapixel phone a while back that largely did not catch on with consumers? Are you going to go Android just to get this 48?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, it would take something crazy for me to switch out of the Apple ecosystem. However, my brother-in-law just picked up the Google Pixel, and I was very fascinated by it.
Yeah? Why?
It had the fingerprint and the face recognition, but the fingerprint recognition was on the back of the phone.
Oh, finger face recognition. I've heard about
finger
that.
face.
Yeah. You have to press the sensor with your finger to get your finger oils on it first, then hold it up to your face so that it can really recognize your face in all of its oily goodness.
I just want nose recognition where you touch your nose to the phone.
You can do that now. Just when you go to program your finger into your phone, you just
do your nose.
Yeah, you just do your nose.
I can't see it because I have an iPhone 10. I have no button anymore.
There's some ridiculous article somebody wrote, or maybe it's just a tweet somebody tweeted about how they set up their fingerprint scanner with their iPhone to do their dog's toe or something like that. And it worked.
But why?
I think it was probably a tweet, and then there's like a million tweets underneath it that were like, I wonder if it could do the tip of my... Yeah. So
tip of my toe.
So that's what people, typically think about with this kind of stuff. Oh gosh, I can't believe you made me click on a Gizmodo link. Ugh, I hate that site.
That's why we're the greatest country in America. I mean, the world.
So, Dustin, you shoot Nikon.
I do, Steven.
And Nikon just announced that they're going to be doing a full-frame mirrorless camera. They got it. It's all under development right now. So how do you feel about that?
Are you excited? Are you switching to Nikon? Is that what you're telling me?
Absolutely not. Why would I switch to Nikon? Nikon uses Sony sensors in their cameras, don't they? They used to. I don't know if they still do. So why wouldn't I just go straight to the source and go straight Sony? Why would I play around with Nikon?
Another great idea. You should do that then.
Well, you just want me to do that for when I work on videos with you. Yeah.
Before August, if you could do that,
that's not going to happen.
Nikon going mirrorless. Everyone's going mirrorless, man. Mirrorless is the future. It's sort of like before everyone was full frame. Full frame was the future. Now it's, mirrorless is the future. Everyone's seeing Sony leaps and bounds surpass them. And it's just taking these guys so long to pick up and say, whoa, okay, we need to do this.
Okay.
And
so Nikon's officially announced. Canon's just had like a rumor floating around. The Canon rumor
they're going
to. But the Canon rumor says that they're not going to. The lens mount's going to be different than like the 5D Mark IV and like their other full frame cameras.
Well, that would be super annoying.
Yeah, like I don't know why you would even buy into that system if it's a different lens mount. What about Nikon? Are they going to be the same lens mount system or?
I don't know. What did the article say?
We know the system will use a new lens mount and thus require new lenses, though an adapter for f-mount SLR lenses will also be available. So would you want to upgrade knowing that all your glass is trash?
The f-mount lens library that dates back to the 1950s is the problem when designing a competitive mirrorless camera, which is why I'm assuming both Canon and Nikon will have to redesign their lens mounts to adapt to a well-designed mirrorless system.
See, but here's my question. I got that Canon 85mm f1.2 and that 50mm f1.2 from Canon.
Mm-hmm.
How am I ever going to find lenses that compare with those? They're so beautiful.
Paperweights.
What the hell does that mean?
Meaning you won't be able to use them anymore because you're going to have to get new ones.
Yeah, sounds to me like I'll just be sticking with that 5D Mark IV.
And they're going to be half the size.
Sticking with that 5D Mark IV. That is the thing. It's physics. Like the reason the lenses aren't as good is because they can't be as fat and juicy and good.
You're switching to Sony.
Those are all words I would use to describe a lens: fat, juicy, and good.
Oh, Steven.
Oh gosh, so we got all that gear talk out of our system, so we don't have to do that for like another 20 episodes or something, right? Gosh, man. Dustin, do you want to do some Q&A?
What's funny is I love the gear talk.
Oh gosh, it's the worst.
The listeners, if you want more of this gear talk, you've got to petition for it because Steve always shuts me down.
Yeah, go straight to the Facebook group and just type in Dustin is a douchebag, and I'll know what that means.
I'll know that you want more gear talk.
Yeah. Dustin, do you want to do some Q&A? Let's do some Q&A.
But Steve.
From Reddit, I did some modeling about 2 months ago. A couple days later, the photographer showed me a folder with the photos and asked me to select 5 photos that I liked. Anyway, that photographer's finally done, and he told me he's finished them and sent them through. They're all over edited. The color correction is just horrible to look at, and my skin looks feathered. It's a shame because the originals, I was really keen to get those photos. Is there anything I can say? It was a TFP shoot, so I feel bad saying anything.
For those who don't know what TFP means, it's trade for print.
Time for
trade
prints.
for photo.
Time for prints.
Time for print. Perfect. So yeah, I don't know if it's a I feel like this is one of those that I need more context. Is the photographer someone who's been doing this a long time? Is he just starting off? If it's someone that's just starting off, I think this is your opportunity to say like, hey man, like these are not as good.
Here's the thing, Dustin. You're doing some modeling. You come to me, your best friend in the whole world. I take some photos of you. I send them back to you. Your skin looks feathered, not your hair, which would be a great look on you. But your skin looks feathered. What do you say to me?
I say, I feel like I can fly. I feel like I can touch the sky.
What
Get it?
the
Feathers.
hell? What the hell are you
Feathers.
singing?
Flying? Maybe? No? Okay.
Were you trying to do I Believe I Can Fly?
I believe I can fly.
Were you thinking about that every night and day? Because you screwed it up. You've been thinking about the wrong thing every night and day.
Wow. My lack of sugar intake.
Yeah. Guess you just don't know enough about terrible human beings who sing R&B music. R. Kelly, we hate you.
That's what I have you for. That's what I have you for, Steve.
I would say to this Reddit user, just ask if you can get the raws. If the photographer hears you say that, they might be a little bit offended and be like, what are you talking about? And when they say that opens the door for you. Now you slide into their DMs and you're just like, look, my skin looks feathery. I am not a dinosaur.
I am not a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Like that Velociraptor look, that's real cool. I've seen that Jurassic Kingdom, but that's not me. Nah, I'm not a reptile man.
I don't want you to talk like that for the rest of the podcast.
Dustin, that's how I talk every day. Ask Jen. She hates it.
That thug life.
Yeah, that's what I'm living. Dustin, if somebody came to you said, hey, I don't like the way you edited this, what would you say back?
I would say, sorry. I mean, so here's how I feel about editing. And this is a line that I walk frequently, I feel like, and get nervous about. Especially when you've been doing this as long as I've been doing this.
Tell us more about how you walk the line, Johnny Cash.
When someone hires you and they see the work on your website, they see the work on your blog, social media, wherever, I mean, they should expect a similar editing look and feel to their photos. But every now and then, I like to play. I like to have some fun with the editing.
Dustin McKibben's he's gonna do some TFP and he's just gonna play with that edit. Just play with him. Play with Dustin.
Sometimes your wedding photos could be my digital playground.
Just let Griffin McElroy play with me. Come on, let's all get in this together and play.
So I guess what my question would be to this Reddit user is did his photos look all leathered and feathered and, prior to you deciding to use him?
Now, are we just going with words that rhyme? Because I heard you say leathered, but all this person said was feathered. So do we need to throw in weathered? Tethered?
Weathered, leathered, and feathered.com. That should be this guy's studio name. I see some really great, Western logos coming to my mind.
I see some really weird BDSM stuff coming to my mind.
But can we just talk real quick? Can we tangent for just a second?
You want to talk about BDSM now?
No.
So you got a gag in your mouth, Dustin, and there's a man with a dildo behind you.
But quickly here, Steve.
But you're not wearing chaps.
Come on a journey with me.
So he's got no way to get in there.
So
I'm taking you on a journey. Play
it's
with
a journey I don't want to go on. So as you know, we've been really working this year hard on our Instagram presence. And we got, I think maybe like our second ever like inquiry on Instagram. And I was like, yes, it's working. All of this hard work. And it was somebody from Terre Haute, Indiana.
Terre Haute.
Terre Haute, represent. So for those of you who don't know, Terre Haute's a very small town. And she asked if I did modeling photos. And I was like, sure, we can do modeling photos. You know, at this point in time, since we're building a new house, I'll shoot anything. And she was like, well, I'm looking for someone, you know, that'll do like trade for print or trade for time or whatever you call it.
Time
TFP.
for print.
Time for
TFP.
print.
There we go. You got it. You can call it trade for photos. I mean, that still works.
And I was just like, oh, I think you misunderstand. Like, she thought like we were just starting off, like we were brand new. And I was like, oh, man. I was like so disappointed that I had to let her down by like, oh, unfortunately, I don't have the time to drive all the way to Terre Haute. And when I was like, but if you're ever in Fort Wayne, I'd be happy to snap something. I, you know, love taking pictures. And she's like, oh, unfortunately, I'm not 16 yet and I can't drive a car. And I'm like, this feels like entrapment. This conversation is over.
Wow. See, now Jen and I have gotten many requests like that.
I assume, because you're Instagram gods and goddesses over there.
You have 3,000 less than us now on your main account. All that money you've been spending, it's working, buddy. It's working.
It's about time.
So we get some requests like that every once in a while, and Jen just plays it real cool. She just sends them back a price sheet, basically, anytime. She's like, this is my rate, and like doesn't even mess around with saying yes. She's just like, yeah, if you want to do that, this is my rate.
Yeah, and that's what I did. I was like, oh, it's, you know, $400 plus travel. And she's like, oh, I was really looking for like a TFP kind of situation.
And you're like, well, ask mommy and daddy what they'll pay.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, you know, for like as if she was helping my portfolio.
I mean, that's the whole point of TFP is you're helping each other's portfolios. Some people call it collaboration.
Right. But I was like, have you seen my portfolio? Do you see a lot of modeling in there?
Yeah, this is like if you want to get into modeling. That's what she's trying to get at. Dustin, do you want to get into modeling?
Maybe she's trying to suggest that I do get into modeling. Maybe
you should be shooting models. That's what she's trying to say to you. Put down all those wedding dresses and find some 14-year-olds. We'll get Doza back on. He'll tell you all about how to manage that. Lila from the Facebook groups. If you hire an assistant/second shooter, how much do you pay the second shooter?
I pay them as little as humanly possible, if anything at all.
That's why Dustin never hires me anymore.
I can never afford Steve. He's worth more than my house.
Wait, what?
So what's the rule of thumb, Steve? What's the going rate these days? I think it also kind of varies state to state, city to city.
Well, in the thing earlier from Mac, the person was offering them $20 an hour.
I can get behind that. That's the standard?
No, that is not the standard. I felt like that was kind of low. I know if Jen's second shooting for somebody, she would charge considerably more than $20 an hour. If I'm second shooting for somebody, I would charge considerably more than $20 an hour. Most of the second shooters who work with us are either like 25 or 30, depending on their experience. Some are a little bit higher even than that, depending on their experience. But yeah, I'm not 100% certain. There's not like an industry standard or anything. It's just kind of where you live, what people expect. $20 seems very, very low to me, though.
Yeah.
He says when he also just said 25. It's something people expect here. That $5, it just makes so much difference, though.
Well, I think from what I've heard from other photographers when I lived in New York too, something that makes a big difference in price is whether or not the photographer, the second shooter, is providing their own equipment.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think about like how much like engineers make per hour and how much doctors make per hour and all of that. And like to think that us as photographers could go second shoot. Granted, I know we can only do it on Saturdays for the most part, but you know, make more than like a nurse or a, you know, PT or something like per hour. It just boggles my mind.
Doesn't boggle my mind at all, because nurses, doctors, all those people, they have insurance. They have a steady job. They're not out there trolling for jobs all the time. Like, what do you not understand about being in business for yourself? Like, you have to charge more money because you don't have like a set 9 to 5. You don't have a paycheck that you're getting from the company.
So because of the fact that you can't find work Monday through Friday, that means you have to offload that time onto an event that's happening. I mean, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I charge, when I second shoot for people, an ungodly amount, but I'm still just trying to wrap my mind around.
You're never going to be making more money per hour than a doctor as a second shooter. Never. So I don't know why you threw that in there. Most nurses, you won't be making more money per hour than either.
Well, it depends on what you define as a doctor, Steven. See, my wife is technically a doctor, and I pay my second shooters more than what she gets per hour.
Is this before or after taxes?
This is before taxes.
Your wife is drastically underpaid. People in Indianapolis doing the same job as her make 3 to 4 times as much. We've been over this before, but I mean, you can keep living this weird dream of yours that you're move to a better city. Move.
I would like to get these
maybe
stats
Fort Wayne prices. You can get away with $5 to $10 an hour for a second shooter. That's fine. Yeah. No, most second shooters I know, they're not second shooting full time. This is like a one.
You couldn't.
Yeah.
You couldn't second shoot full time. But then what my point is that if you're not second shooting full time, what your argument is that then you can charge as if this is your sole source of income that you're charging.
No, I'm saying you have to charge more when you're doing any sort of thing where you're working for yourself, because nobody's taking taxes out of this for you. There's all these expenses that you have when you're running your own business. And when you're a second shooter, you incur all those expenses pretty much the same as a first shooter, as long as you make over, what is it, like $1,000 a year doing it? So, I mean, it's ridiculous to think that you would charge a super low amount just because, well, I have a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah. I think it's also supply and demand.
Yeah, it is.
If you, as a main photographer, want a really talented second photographer so that your stress and anxiety levels are lower on the wedding day and you can trust them more, then your chances are you're going to be paying more for someone that is of that skill set. But if you just want essentially a light stand of a person, then you get them for free, like me.
See, and what Dustin's looking for in his second shooters, as he's confessed to me many times, is a light stand of a person. Last week on the episode, you said you treat Corinne like that. Like, you just have her hold a flash for you so you don't have to bring a light stand in with you, which is maybe the most demeaning and derogatory way you could ever treat your wife when she's working with you. Jeez.
She loves it.
No, she does not.
Speaking of, it's officially the next day, and it's our anniversary.
Dustin, congratulations. How many years?
Yeah. 6 years.
I can't believe we've known each other for 6 years.
6 years of wedded bliss.
Oh, your anniversary with Corinne?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was our anniversary. This is awkward now. Just going to back my way out of this podcast. Okay. Next question. Ash from the Facebook group says, anyone in here offer a full day wedding video? And by that, I mean, you cover 8 hours and offer an 8-hour video. I have a mother of the bride who is contacting me after a year with the notion that I am withholding an 8-hour video from her. I don't think she understands how highlight reels are built through snippets, and I know she must realize we didn't constantly record for 8 hours as we had to move, reset, wait, etc. It's physically impossible. Or maybe it isn't. In case I'm wrong, anyone offer 8-hour footage?
So yeah, I had, first of all, yes, this mother of the bride is insane. But this goes back to you educating your clients so that they know exactly what they're getting at the end of the day. But I had the same thing happen. I shot and I find that this is sort of the case with cultural weddings where they want video.
Okay, let's take that back a step, because everyone who's listening, when you say cultural weddings, is going to be like, Dustin's a racist. So let's just reset and you can try this again real quick.
When I shoot long wedding days, I I find that I have these parents that do have sort of this expectation of a longer wedding video. And for instance, I had a wedding a couple of years back, and I delivered them their 7-minute highlight film. Couple loved it. I loved it. Thought it was really great. We were there probably one of the longest wedding days we've ever been. And so it was a crap ton of footage to go through. And the bride's parents were devastated. They're like, they thought it was like a trailer. They're like, oh, this is a nice, like, trailer.
I got that from a wedding planner one time when I delivered a video. They were like, oh my gosh, it's such a great trailer. And I was just like, oh, no, that is, I told you ahead of time it was going to be 5 to 10 minutes. That's a 6.5 minute video. That's it.
That's all you're getting. But yeah, so she, the mom was just so upset that she wasn't getting, and then she like took the bride over and like showed her like the VHS tapes that like her wedding was on, and like how she had like just full on video coverage of the entire day on these VHS tapes. And I was like, well, that's not the service I offered. So yeah, so I ended up upselling them a hard drive with the raw footage on it. And said, hey guys, you're more than welcome to go through all 16 hours.
Well, was this the wedding I shot with you?
I don't know. Did you?
Because I said some real terrible things about you and about the bride and the groom. So
I know, and see, that's the thing too. Is like when you're selling raw footage, that's like something you always have to keep in mind. Because I'm constantly cracking jokes beside the camera when it's rolling, and
they're like really, really dirty, terrible jokes. Like the kind of jokes you wouldn't even say on this podcast. Like that's how bad they are.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, what do you think of this? What's your takeaway?
My takeaway is this. Listeners, you can buy right here, right now, the Steve GoPro pack. That's right. It's a helmet with a GoPro on top, a lithium-ion battery pack that it is hardwired to that you wear as a backpack all day. You press start on that sucker at the beginning of the day, and you walk around all day with it on. Then at the end of the day, you deliver an 8-hour, 9-hour, 10-hour, 12-hour wedding video to the bride and groom. And the great part about this awesome new package available from the Wedding Photo Hangover podcast is you don't actually have to shoot anything else. You just walk around with the GoPro, and that's what they get. $6,000.
You can drink, you can smoke, you can dance. Doesn't matter.
It's all a part of the wedding day.
All part of the wedding day.
Yeah. Because
hands-free.
Here is the amazing thing about the Steve GoPro backpack helmet pack.
Steve GoPro.
Lithium-ion backpack helmet pack. The more you drink, the blurrier your vision gets. But the GoPro, it's not connected to your eyeballs, so it's sharp.
You hope.
Oh, no, it's sharp. It's a GoPro. What's it at? Like F4 all day long? Come on, it's sharp.
I don't know. I shot a wedding video with a GoPro, like some footage.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, Dustin, why would you do that?
Because we just wanted to get a fun from the roof angle during the ceremony, and wanted something that we could just mount and let it run during the whole ceremony.
Okay, that's cool.
And
that's cool.
It wasn't like it was not the most brightly lit place that we were photographing, and so it was kind of real noisy.
There's a venue in Indy, and one of the things they will do for you if you hire them to do this is they will mount a GoPro on the balcony looking down at the reception and record your wedding reception with that GoPro.
Wow.
And all I could think is, has anyone ever in their rightful mind hired you to do this? Because why would you want a top-down shot of the dance floor?
Well, it's funny you say that because I've actually, that same wedding I was referencing earlier, where I was like, they were like disappointed that I didn't have like this crazy extended cut video. The band that they hire, that's a service the band typically offers, is that they put up a camera on the dance floor and let it roll all night long.
I mean, I feel like that's the band's doing that more for themselves, for their own promotional purposes. Look at these crowds. That's all us, baby.
They give the bride and groom a DVD with like all 5 hours of dancing footage.
Oh gosh, what a unwatchable pile of garbage that would be. Sorry, that is my thoughts on when you roll for 8 hours just looking at a dance floor. It doesn't. So, how did you get out of that sticky wicket, that sticky situation?
I just kind of, like I said, I just upsold the raw footage. Told him, feel free to like look through the raw footage because that's as close as you're going to get to seeing, things that might not have made it into the final cut. Because really what the mom was kind of disappointed about was the lack of reception footage. She wanted more of just people dancing in a circle because this was a Greek Orthodox wedding. And so they do a lot of what I call circle dancing. And she wanted just more of that in the video.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I can't just add another 10 minutes of dancing to this. It would be boring. So, and then of course, me being, an asshole, I was like, well, if your mom would like me to edit a special version of the video just for her that has way more footage, and then I name like some ungodly price. And they obviously were like, no, we'll just buy the raw footage.
Nice.
Maybe my fiance, or at that time, my husband can put something together in iMovie for her.
Wow.
I was like, good luck.
Good luck. Meet me, and you just roadrunnered out of there?
So what I think he said he ended up doing was he bought her one of those Kodak easy frames, like the video picture frame thingies.
Nice.
And just like loaded all of it onto an SD card and just like gave it to her.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. That should be the service you now give to your clients, Dustin.
Yeah, here's one of those like picture frames, and it's preloaded with all of the dance footage.
You can have a party in your bedroom. You can have a party in your restroom. You can have a party in your kitchen. You can have a party in your living room. Just bring the Kodak Easy Frame with you.
I was giving him a hard time. I was like, you can at least got her like an iPad or something.
Wow. Jeez. Wow. Technology shaming him, Dustin, after he did this amazing thing that you refused to do. Wow.
I refused to do.
So Ash from the Facebook groups, 100% no, nobody does that. It's crazy to think that anybody would. I think it's crazy. There are some like videographers here in Indy who deliver a 15 to 30 minute video. And I have tried to watch some of those 15 to 30 minute videos, and oh my gosh, it's so bad.
No way.
Well, I mean, it's cool. Like, it's got to be cool for the bride and groom because it's just them remembering their day. But for anybody else trying to watch it, it's just like this giant mess of things that they're not interested in. And like when I'm making like a video for a client, like my idea in my head is I want to make something that they like their friends want to watch. That if they said, hey, come look at our wedding video, their friends wouldn't cringe, But they'd be like, wow, that was really cool. It moved really fast. I feel like emotionally attached to that. And like, that's my goal with that. And when I see these like 14, 15 minute videos, I'm just like, nope. Like I don't, I started some and I just end up stopping about maybe 3 minutes in every single time. And they just lose my interest. They don't move fast
from what I've been
enough.
told by people who do them is the only reason they do them is because it was an upsell.
Mm-hmm.
So they start off with like a 5-minute package and then they're like, hey, I got so much good stuff from your wedding. Like, I think we could put together a 15-minute video for X amount of extra dollars. And they're like, oh yeah, do it.
See, as somebody who's been shooting and editing video for the last 11 years of their life, no, I would never ever do that. That sounds so terrible. You have to actually plan that out when you're going for the shoot to shoot that much footage. A. B. You gotta be able to depend on whoever's second, third, fourth shooting for you. I'm assuming those people work with bigger crews, that they're gonna nail a ton of shots and just nail them really well. And just, they're gonna be able to get like super interesting different angles and stuff. Like, oh my gosh, I can't work on stuff that bores me. Like, it's so difficult to do that.
Yeah.
Dustin, thank you so much for joining me tonight. And thanks to all of our listeners for tuning in to another episode of the Wedding Photo Hangover podcast with Dustin and Steve. If you want to help us out, jump on iTunes or Stitcher and leave us a 5-star review. If you want to connect, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Wedding Photo Hangover or on Twitter at WedPic Hangover. Dustin is on Instagram at Dustin_McKibben and Steve is at Steven Van One Elk. If you want to get involved with the awesome community of listeners, join the Wedding Hangover Facebook group. If you can't find it, just look for the Wedding Photo Hangover page, and we're like admins at the Wedding Hangover group. It's pretty easy. Anyway, thanks for listening.
Is it?
And we'll see you next time. Your head is pounding, your limbs feel like dead weight, and your entire being aches for the sweet embrace of death. That's right, next Sunday after you shoot another wedding. And yes, Dustin, it is super easy for people to find the Facebook group because there's a link to it in all of the show notes for the episode since we created it.
We have show notes?
We have show notes every single week.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Actually, I haven't technically released an episode on Anchor yet. Like, all the episodes were released on SoundCloud and then imported in Anchor. So I'm not 100% certain how that's going to work out. Yeah, I don't know how Anchor does show notes and stuff like that, but I'm pretty certain they have a working thing. The whole reason we made the switch, listeners, is people have been asking if we're available on Spotify, and SoundCloud and Spotify are not friends. So we had to find a new host that was friendly with Spotify.
We wanted to be SoundCloudify, but no dice.
Yeah, it would be great if SoundCloud and Spotify could be friends, but it's just never going to happen because their like main service of music is just, it's competing, and they're never going to be friendly. Podcast is ancillary for both of them. They don't care.
Do you have a wedding this weekend, Steven?
Do I have a wedding this weekend? Dustin, let me tell you, no, I do not have a wedding this weekend.
What is that, like 3 weekends in a row?
No, I drove all the way home from Wisconsin to shoot a wedding one weekend.
Two weekends in a row.
It's going to be 3 weekends in a row.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, next weekend, Jen's shooting a wedding without me.
Why?
The couple could only afford one shooter. Typically, we don't do that with our packages, but they were booking later in the year, and we hadn't booked the date yet, so I was like, why not?
Why not?
Or at least that's what Jen thought, was why not. So, I mean, she's the one who's taking this on. She's my hero. She does all the hard work in this business that we run together.
Oh, because if you were running this business, you'd be doing 15-minute wedding films every day, all day.
Oh, gosh, no. Oh, man. Wow. That would be the absolute worst. Ugh.
We are in the great state of Ohio this weekend, Cleveland. So yeah, should be a good wedding. It's going to be a long one. We're contracted for 12 hours, and the place we are staying is an hour away.
What? How does that even work? Are you going to see Louis? Are you going to?
I wanted to see
Are
Louis.
Are we allowed to talk about Louis hasn't featured in many of the episodes recently because
Louis has a new baby boy.
Yeah. For like the last how many weeks? Like, oh man.
He named Dustin Steven Novak.
Yeah, no, that didn't happen. That would have been that would have been
full
real
name.
weird.
Full name is Dustin Steven Novak.
Yeah, no, we're not going to say that kid's name on the podcast, but congratulations, Louis. Sorry it's been so long, but we didn't really know if it's cool to mention on the podcast, but we're super pumped for you. If you're still even listening, you've got a new kid, so that might not be a possibility right now. Or ever again. You know, kids kind of change your whole life around.
But yeah, so yeah, the friends of ours that we're crashing with live an hour outside of Cleveland. So I did not realize that when I made those arrangements.
You didn't get the couple to pay for a hotel for you?
Yeah, I did.
What is all this weird travel stuff? No. Oh, gosh, why do you always do this? Why do you always do this? Every time you travel, you try to do some crazy, weird arrangement.
Crazy, weird? No, we're visiting friends that we haven't seen.
You were asking me, you had a shoot in Denver, and you're like, Steve, do you know anybody in Denver I could crash with? And I was like, make your couple pay for it?
What? When did I ask you this? I don't remember this.
It was right after you went to Denver the last time. You were saying you might have another shoot in Denver. And you were wondering if I had any friends you could crash with. And I was like, make your couple buy you a hotel.
You're leaving a piece of that puzzle out. I asked you if you wanted to come with me to Denver. And if you did, if you had anyone we could crash with.
Yeah, I could crash with somebody and you could stay in a hotel.
Yeah, and that's why we didn't go to Denver.
I have lots of friends in Denver. We could have figured something out. I'm doing a podcast with a guy in Denver.
Oh, now you're telling me. We We could have been in Denver by now.
We could have been in Denver several times by now. Gosh, Denver's beautiful. I'd go out there in a heartbeat.
I'd go out there just for the freaking Denver Biscuit Company. Gosh, that makes me sound like a fatty. Have you ever eaten at the Denver Biscuit Company?
No.
Oh my gosh. So good.
Dustin, are you still recording? I'm trying to figure out in my head right now how much of this I'm going to have to cut out.
None of it. You have to cut none of it out. It's all gold. Podcast gold. All right, Steven. I got to get going. It's almost 1 a.m. and I've got to wake up in 6 hours. So
5 hours. You said you had to be up at 6. Sorry, bud.
I know.
Your life sucks.
Welcome to the life of a full-time photographer. No one said it was glamorous.
Gotta find a new job.
Trust me. I was talking to someone yesterday. Oh, I was photographing an author of a book, and I was trying to find out what he does for a living. That sounds like a
good job.
And he's a vice president for a insurance company, and I was like trying to understand what it is he does. And I'm
because his book, that's all erotic furry fan fiction.
Yes.
that book's not paying the bills, so he's got to be a vice president for some company on the side.
It's just a pet project.
Oh, nice.
Oh, see what I did there?
Oh, yes. He's a good boy.
But,
you are.
All right. I got to go. Good night, Steven.
Good night, Dustin.
Word. Hey, I'm Dustin.
And I'm Steve. And whoa, what? Ugh. Oh, start that over. Sorry.
Oh man, mine was so good though.
Yeah, let's start it over. Come on.
3, 2, 1, record.
Wait, hold up.
Hey. Oh my god, killing my mojo, my build up, my momentum.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having some problems over here. I think I got everything sorted out though now. All right, let's try it one last time. Just for me.
3, 2, 1, record.
Wedding Photo Hangover is edited by Steve Van Elk from Bespoke Tone. You can hit up Bespoke Tone for all of your photo, video, or audio editing needs. Woo-wee!